Now, the Army is reportedly considering doing away with its new gender-neutral physical test, meaning it didn't matter which gender you are, you had to pass this test. Well, that's because we're all the same, right? So you should just have one test that fits all, since there's no difference. But sadly, the test results have shown that the majority of women failed while approximately 90% of men passed. So they're now officially considering having different evaluation categories for men and women due to, get this, what kind of hate? What kind of sexism? Due to the physiological differences between men and women?
Whoa.
Oh, my.
Differences?
What?
Explain one, because I've never heard of a difference. I've never heard that there are any differences whatsoever between men and women, except that you do need to notice every difference between men and women. It's the most important thing and the least important thing, gender, in our society. It's simultaneously the only thing you should notice, and also you should never notice.
Never notice it.
If you just do those two simple steps. Don't notice it, but always notice it.
Okay, gender and race are exactly the same. You apply the same theory to race and never notice that you're a different color from somebody else. On the other hand, always recognize the difference in color between yourself and someone else.
A cultural difference is not something that you should look at to differentiate races. However, you should always notice every cultural difference that differentiates the races.
And grade accordingly and employ accordingly.
Yeah. And by the way, don't you and your white music and your white food, all that stuff, that's disgusting, and you should open up your horizons and see other cultures. Also, don't appropriate that culture by eating it or listening to it.
Okay.
Because then you're obviously a racist.
Now, the food I'm eating right now is racist because it's white food.
Right. But if I
was to do, let's say, soul food.
Right, that would be racist.
That'd be racist.
Right.
Because I'm appropriating
the black culture.
Food culture.
So what I would say to you, Pat, is if you never were to eat again.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be great for you. Just don't eat again.
Wouldn't I be appropriating Gandhi's culture at that point?
You would.
Yeah.
Probably easier to just drive your car into a garage and close the door. That's probably a better
solution. And leave the motor running?
Yes.
I think they'd like that. I think they would. I think they'd like that if I were to.
That does seem to be the only way you can avoid racism.
Does.
Death. If
For white people, yeah.
For white people, it does seem to be the only way. And of course, the sad thing is if you get killed by Antifa, then it doesn't even count because they're not real. So I don't know I'm not exactly sure how to navigate this society at this point.
It's difficult.
It's a bit difficult.
I will say that it is difficult. Now, as far as this gender-neutral physical test, research showed that the Army Combat Fitness Test, the ACFT, as we refer to it here because we're so familiar with it, it's the same for male and female soldiers, was leading to lower results for women with a knock-on effect for promotions. Oh, no. An early Pentagon study showed that women were failing the ACFT at a rate of 65%, while only 10% of men failed. How would you explain that? Amazing coincidence that would lead you to believe that men may have different physiological advantages over women.
Pardon me?
And yet, they don't.
No. Those differences do not exist, though they are the most important thing that you should always notice. But they don't exist.
So the Democrats now have stopped the new program from being implemented, and the Army is reviewing whether it's fair. Congress doesn't want the test as it is currently constructed to factor into opportunities for advancement. So they're in kind of a quandary right now because you can't have different tests, but you must have different tests.
Well, you see this, of course, happening in, for example, high school sports, where boys are competing as girls and are winning all the races and winning by large margins. And while that's like, I have a daughter. If she wants to play a sport, I don't want her, pushed out of the sport because
of men,
guy is just saying he's a girl. It's totally unfair, and that will bother me. And I'm not saying it's not important. It is important, But like, this is the freaking military. Your job as a military is to be the best fighting force possible. If a woman can compete at that level, well, she can compete at that level. But if she can't because she's a woman, you don't change the requirements to allow people who cannot compete physically at that level to clear a barrier that you've lowered so that they can clear it. That's a terrible idea. A terrible idea. You can't. This is not time to play. I mean, kids' sports is disturbing, but not vital to our society in that way. What's happening there? I mean, it is, but it's not like would be at the military. This is a real issue. And the reason why, there's a lot of things that have made America great. The military is a big part of that. And the fact that we have the best military in the world allows us to be able to protect the things that we've built.
Yeah, you just don't want to screw around with being politically correct with the military.
No.
Which is exactly what Tucker Carlson was saying last week and got bludgeoned for it. I mean, he might have said it in a colorful way, an entertaining way, but the truth is, there's something to that, and maybe we should focus on just making sure we're ready for any eventuality that comes up in our U.S. military.